welcome to the Outpost. I am Adam Alexander.
And my name is Mike Hurt.
And with us this month, we have a very special guest, past National Commander Dick Marbes from Chapter 3.
And Dick, welcome. This is pretty cool beans that we got you down here and to be able to share a little bit about what it was like to be a past National Commander. You're also the current president of the Charitable Trust Fund and the Northern Coordinator for our transportation network. So
a man of many hats, needless to say.
Many hats, yeah. So, yeah.
Hopefully I wear them well.
That you do. If you
well, my part as a National Commander, which I would like to point out, is because it was very unusual. Generally speaking, National Commanders, they're elected at a national convention every year, and you start at 4th junior vice up to 3rd, 2nd, 1st senior vice and on into the national commandership. So it's a long process. So they see a lot of you as you go, and if you don't work out, you probably won't see the national commander position. But I started out as 3rd junior vice. There was competition in the year I went for the slate, and then I went up to. I spent 2 years as 2nd junior vice, and from there is where I moved on to 1st. And at that particular time
but if I can jump in real quick, can you put up that first slide? Because this was with your campaign.
This was a part of my campaign. So when I got up to 1st Junior Vice Commander, there was a very turbulent time going on in the DAV across the country. We had a newer national adjutant, and they basically run the organization. They're the brains behind it. Butch had been in there probably 5 years, and things started going the wrong way. Our service program, which is our crown jewel, was going downhill. It went from like 160 service officers down to maybe 120 some.
What is the service officer for our viewers?
So our in the DAV we have a national service office program. In every state we have trained national service officers. They're employees of the organization. It's all free counseling. They do federal and state benefits for veterans and their families. There's a lot of good work that comes from these people, and they're retrained every year. They know what they do very well. So life is made easier for a lot of families because of the success of a national service officer representing them for their claim with the federal or the state VA. So that is really what DAV is a lot of it is about. But our leadership was going downhill, and wasn't listening to anybody. So our previous national adjutant, his name was Dale Adams, he decided it was time that we needed to do something about it. And this was only the second time in the history of the DAV, the first time was in the 50s, that a person who started up the chain and got as high as senior vice commander, and he was ready to move up to commander. It didn't happen. We put a campaign together that was a very turbulent time for a year prior to the 1993 convention. We had to organize all the way across the country, explain to people why we were doing what we were doing. Parker Rice was a really good guy. He should have been the next commander, but he decided to side with the adjutant at the time, and things just weren't working out. So the only way to change that was to get somebody in there as national commander that could make that change. And that was where I jumped the line. We went to the convention that year in 93. The convention was in San Francisco. It was an extremely turbulent time. We had a commander out of Washington, D.C. He was an attorney out there, and he thought he could just do these types of things. But when the country got in an uproar and decided we would challenge him, we came to San Francisco ready to fight. And it was a difficult time because I lost a lot of very good friends who took the other side. But when the roll was called, we won that election almost 2-1. That was almost unheard of. So Parker never got to be national commander. I was jumped up from where I was up into the national commander position. We then took over the organization. We were headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio, or right across the river, actually, which is Kentucky. But it took a couple of months because a lot of people left. We told them they had to leave. We put a lot of new people in there, and we spent that year a lot of reorganizing during my time as national commander. Like I said, it wasn't a pleasant thing, but it was something that had to be done. The right people sided with us, and we made it. And since then, DAV has come back a long way. Our national service officers now number, I think, almost 190. We've got younger people. When we hired to fill those positions, we hired younger people, and they jive a lot with the clients that we deal with. But again, we deal with anyone who comes to us for help with claims against the federal or state VA. So during my time as national commander, I did a few things that I think are notable here. One of the things DAV does every year is partner with the VA to do a winter sports clinic out in Colorado, and they call it Miracles on a Mountain. So during that time, I met a lot of people. This was my first time at the clinic. There are a ton of amputees out there, blind skiers, all kinds of disabilities, significant, but they get to go down these mountains on these specially equipped apparatus, and it's just an exciting time. So this is one of the fellows I met. I also met a gal. This lady, her and I were going down the hill at the same time. I was on a sit ski, and that's just a thing that they strap you into, and your hands have little paddles that's your ski poles. But it works very well. So this gal, I noticed when they were harnessing her up, I couldn't really tell anything, but she seemed very skeptical about going down the hill. And as we started out, she was asking a lot of questions, and I could hear part of the conversation because I was staying right next to her. Turned out she was blind, and this is the first time she had ever had the opportunity to try this. And she kept asking the person that had her harnessed, look out for the trees. Well, there weren't any trees because we were on a ski hill, but she'd never been on a ski hill. Wow. Not only that, she couldn't see if there were trees. So anyway, when we got to the bottom of the hill, I asked her to come over and sit down and talk for a while, and signed her up as a life member of the DAV. And she was, I talked to her later on during the event, and you hear comments, and our magazine carries articles about the winter sports clinic. It truly is a miracle on a mountainside. But that was my opportunity. Also, the national commander does a lot of testifying before the Congress on a number of veterans issues. During my time, Sonny Montgomery from Mississippi was the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. I got to meet with him many times. Really nice man. I'm sure he's no longer with us. But he was truly a veterans man, and you could get his ear anytime, stop in his office. So I had the opportunity to meet with him a number of times. You do present in February, the National Commander presents the DAV's testimony to the Joint Veterans Affairs Committee, Senate and House. It's a big deal because we have our time to talk to them face to face with a big crowd in all of the Veterans Affairs Committees. So every commander will do that, and ours will be coming up in a couple of weeks now. And it's a time to get a feeling. You go to the Hill and visit with all of your representatives and senators from around the country. And it's a time when you can talk face to face and really lay it on the line. If they haven't been supportive of you, this is the time to let them know that how you feel about that. Let's see, and at the end of your term, there's a big ball that night. All the new national officers for the auxiliary and the DAV are installed, and during that time, a fellow from New York, Don Sias, was succeeding me, so he puts the pin on you, and at that point, you become a past national commander, which I've been since 1994. I have been involved with the Charitable Service Trust. That's another branch of DAV. It is a organization that gives grants to different programs around the country, and there are a lot of them that have different ways of dealing with disabled veterans' issues, whether it be physical, mental, whatever, and very significant. So the trust, I came on the trust, I think probably maybe close to 20 years ago as a member of the board. And about 15 years ago, Chad Colley was one of our past national commanders. He was the president, decided it was time for him to retire, and I was pulled from the board to be the president. So I've been the president of the trust for about 15 years.
I guess just to jump in real quick, the charitable trust fund you mentioned, one thing, if you could kind of divide what exactly the trust fund is, but I think what's important for our viewers is one of the things, you see a lot of ads on TV about, $19 a month and all this type of things, and the ads can be pretty powerful. And I've found that if maybe it interests me or I want to take a look, I always go to Charitable Navigator, and it always gives great feedback.
It does.
If it's a 1-star, 2-star, 3, or a 4-star.
Yes.
And if you could kind of fill us in what exactly a charitable trust fund is, and then how many stars does that fund have?
I believe the highest rating, I believe, is a 4-star, and the charitable trust has over the years had been awarded the highest award, I believe, 5 times. We just were awarded it again last year. So Charity Navigator is an independent organization that rates charities. They have their own way of doing things. People may not agree with the way they do it, but I think they're very hard-nosed in making their decisions. The trust has always been up toward the top there. I think the Navigator, and I've never met anybody from it, but I think the Charity Navigator, they have their own way of looking at programs, how beneficial they are to the people that they serve. So with the Charitable Trust, we support a lot of programs that deal with it could be deaf radio stations that specifically are for the deaf. It could be, we have programs that are for the blind. As far as PTSD, there are a number of those that we do. Let's see. We have homeless is also a big part of the programs that the trust supports.
Is it rated by the Better Business Bureau at all?
I don't know that. You mean the trust or
the trust?
Yeah, it is. It is, and I don't know right offhand the ratings that we've had there, but I'm sure they're very good. We carry their seal on the bottom of our logo, so I'm guessing. But Charity Navigator is probably the one that's looked at as being maybe the toughest.
So the thing that's so important for our viewers, when you're talking DAV, and you're talking about, people love their money. People want to hold on to it, and if they do donate it, they want to ensure that it goes to a good and worthy cause, and that money is going to be well spent. And so what I'm hearing you say, past National Commander Marbes, is that a donation to DAV with the Better Business Bureau and their rating system, the Charitable Navigator, their rating system, those ratings are very high. So that is a donation that is going to be well spent for the target.
Absolutely, and our program is wide open anytime anybody wants any information about it. Bridget Sorrell is our administrator and does a very good job with her staff down at national headquarters. But I think our budget right now is in the somewhere around $48 million, and I can very proudly tell you that when I make my report to the National Convention, I can tell you that about 96 cents out of every dollar that the trust gets goes right back out into programs, and that's why people like us, that's why they believe in us, and that's why they will invest money. The end result here is that, especially with homeless veterans, some of those programs are huge. I had the opportunity to visit them and talk with some of the participants.
To include Gary Sinise, right?
Pardon?
To include Gary Sinise and his foundation, you've...
Oh, we work also with the Gary Sinise Foundation.
You roll that picture up there.
You remember Gary Sinise's Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump?
Yeah, and so going back again...
You got a good story with that, don't you?
We do. At the end of my term in 1994, during that year, Gary Sinise had been recognized for his role of Lieutenant Dan, the amputee former serviceman in a wheelchair that had a really bad attitude. Anybody's seen Forrest Gump, you know what I'm talking about. That movie brought just a ton of exposure to DAV and what it does with post-traumatic stress and others. But we were so impressed with Gary's role in that movie that we invited him to our convention, which was in Chicago, which happened to be where the home of his acting studio that he ran at the time. And we gave him a very nice bronzed statue of Lieutenant Dan. And he was very, very appreciative of that, very taken by it and the reception from all of the veterans that he got to meet that day. That started a wonderful partnership with Gary, and Gary has been involved with a lot of things in the Gary Sinise Foundation. A part of his foundation is called the RISE, R-I-S-E, which means...
It was Restoring Independence and Supporting Empowerment, I believe.
Yep. These homes, he builds homes. He'll have his Lieutenant Dan band put on a concert in the area where that home is going to be built to get the funding started. And the trust supports Gary's project. And he has a number of large contributors, foundations to his project. But Gary decided that project is for some very severely disabled veterans. And they build homes that they can live in and live a somewhat normal life. They're very fascinating homes. They're also very expensive. But he has built something like 45 of them so far, and I think he intends to go up as high as 90 if the program meets its goals. These homes, there's a what do you call those pads? iPad. The veteran himself, one of the guys that I happened to be there when he turned his home over to him, he had use of one arm and not a lot of use, but he could run his motorized wheelchair. He could also operate the iPad. That iPad is so intricate that he can do anything in that home. He can do it himself. He doesn't have to ask his wife or his kids. But the interesting part is that the company that makes those, when they explained them to me, he can be, or she can be in Germany, for example, and decide they want to water their lawn. They can do it by doing that iPad. He can put his shades, or she can put their shades up and down. They can turn lights on in the house. They can do anything. Operate the kitchen when they're there with that. So all that modern technology has really been put to good use for people that might just be, sitting in a chair doing not a whole lot of anything. But again, very severely wounded veterans, and they're getting what they rightfully deserve. Going back to the charitable trust, we have a number of programs that are specific to treating post-traumatic stress. One of those, I have the opportunity, which is a nice thing about being the president, you get a chance to go and see some of the things that we do support. One of them was down in Florida, and I would have never guessed until I went there, but you swim with the dolphins. And
I think we have a picture with that, don't we?
I think we do. Swimming with the dolphins.
And those aren't the Miami Dolphins. So.
Not the Miami.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. They could have been.
They could have been, yeah. If you were in Florida.
This was down on the other part of Florida, the long part down there. So I spent a couple of days there talking with the veterans and their families about how this impacted them, and some of these were very severe PTSD cases. They had tried a lot of different things, and they didn't really impact their problems so much. And this was one that there were about 6 guys when I was there, that getting in there with these dolphins is just something different. And I can tell you, I've never swam with dolphins, but it was something to hear their kids and their wives talk about the change in their personality.
Really?
Just in those few days they had been down. They're there for a week swimming with dolphins. I'm missing my right leg. So they brief you on how the dolphin thing works there on the dock, and the dolphins are at the dock. So you're out in the water, and they give you a little lesson on 10 hand signals to tell these dolphins what to do. When I called for them to come, I had a mother and a son there. When I called for them to come, they wouldn't come. And I did it like 3 or 4 times, and I hollered at the girl. I said, I think when I'm putting 2 hands up, they can't see my other foot. She said, put your hand up in its place. The minute I did, they slapped off to that dock, and I was on my way around. Those animals are so smart.
Wow.
But it was really neat to just have them take me for a ride and do the things.
Fantastic.
And some of the other things I visited have to do with music. Music in different formats is very acceptable to PTSD, and where other things don't work, certain instruments, and getting in with people who maybe you don't necessarily play, but they coax you in there and get you singing and do your thing. It's just another way to get through that layer of post-traumatic stress syndrome. And the Winter Sports Clinic does a lot of that too. So the trust has, as I said, a very high success record. So 96 cents out of every dollar that people and organizations bring to us go right back into the programs, such as these and other programs we have around the country. And our programs are all around the country. Let's see, what else is there?
Well, the one thing, your shirt, the Harvard Law School, wasn't there something, the Charitable Trust Fund?
I didn't know he was going to be on camera. I had a DAV shirt.
Yeah, but...
Okay, so our attorney, now retired, Chris Clay, went to a different law school, but knew a number of people at the Harvard Law School. And he had a person there that he worked with. Harvard was only Harvard University. He talked to them about beginning the Harvard Law School. And it happened because DAV funded a good portion of it. Okay. So the idea was to find students that were coming in to be attorneys and have them specialize in their learning about PTSD and those types of things. And as they graduated, they would go out into the country into what they hoped were rather prestigious law firms. But the idea was that they would do gratis work for veterans' claims, mostly PTSD, and get their counterparts in those offices to do that. We started that program, I think, about 5 years ago. We presented them 3 different checks over those years, and I believe the total of that was like $5 million, and that was just a part of what it cost to operate the Harvard Law School. But anyway, my last time out there, it was a very cold day, and they said, have this nice sweater here and warm you up and keep you thinking about the Harvard Law School. So a lot of good work has come. Oddly enough, thinking where I am here, when the very first class I went to, the student came up to me after we sat through the 1 hour where they did a mock session in class. He came up to me and said, I'm from Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
No kidding.
No kidding.
And I believe he went on, when he graduated, to a very prestigious law firm in Chicago. That's some years ago. But yeah, I thought that was kind of neat.
With
Nobody
the last
else
few
in that
minutes, we
camp.
should probably have you talk a little bit about your role with the Transportation Network.
Okay. The Transportation Network is an awesome program. It started in May of 1987. It was just operating out of the VA medical centers. Most of us that were driving were using our own vehicles. After about 4 years, when the program really got rolling, we started buying vehicles through the national organization who deals with Ford Motor Company. These vehicles are readily recognizable. They have some great decals on them. There you go. We now have about, I think about 44, maybe not quite that many, but we have a number of locations aside from the medical centers. Like Green Bay is under the Milwaukee VA, and as is Appleton. But these services are all free of charge. All a veteran has to do is call up. They have to have an appointment, a scheduled appointment at a medical center. That's the only requirement. Plus, they need to be able to access these vans on their own. We are not allowed to physically assist them.
So how much does it cost for a veteran to utilize this service?
That would be a big goose egg zero.
So it's nothing. It costs nothing.
Costs nothing. So it's extremely affordable. We had to pull back our services somewhat during COVID because we have to do the spacing out and all that. But normally those transit vans would carry 9, 10, or 11 passengers, and we're full most of the time. So they and the drivers get nothing other than an annual banquet where they get recognized for their hours. The drivers are all volunteers. They may leave Green Bay at 6:30 in the morning and get back home at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. That's just another day for our drivers.
And I know, kind of bringing it, again, this show is presented in the Oshkosh area, and to make this local is that the van will show up at
Perkins, right?
Yeah, Perkins. It'll arrive there at Perkins. So it's just a wonderful service, as Dick has shared. It does not cost anything for the veteran. And again, it falls into our core missions of what we do, and ensuring that veterans are treated with dignity and respect, and that we're able to get them to their medical appointments at the VA.
We have the numbers on the screen right now.
Yep.
To volunteer to be a driver.
It's very, very rewarding to DAV to be able to do what we do, and it's a lot of money to run that program. Those vans, we replace several of them every year. Those vans, those transits run us about $34,000. We buy them and we turn them over to the VA, and they accept responsibility for them. Otherwise, we probably couldn't do the program. But all the insurance and the fuel and all of those repairs, that's all taken care of by the VA. So when they're worn out, they give them back to us. We sell them for what we get for them and throw the money back in the pot.
So
But,
you're the northern coordinator for the Transportation Network. So if people call that number, they'll be able to connect with you. And how many days a month do people need to be drivers?
Right now, we need. Normally, I would always say we need drivers. Right now, during COVID, our numbers are so limited that we have enough of our drivers that have stuck around and are doing this. But those that are waiting in the wings for COVID to lessen will come back.